Hello, everybody, and welcome to SOS. I'm Mike Davis, joined right now by my main man, James Edward Barrickman the Fourth. James, a lot going on. You were making fun of me in the back office today. You said I looked like I was dressed up to talk Quidditch.
Yeah,
from the
you
Harry
look like you're suiting
Potter.
up for Gryffindor. Take a look at the camera right now. You look like you're playing for Gryffindor.
Hufflepuff.
I don't know who Harry Potter. What team was he on? I'd never watched Harry Potter.
Me either. I haven't watched too many of them. But Hufflepuff is fun to say. So we're going to go with that one.
Okay,
But
yeah.
we asked everybody at home a few interesting questions this week. This time around, though, we're going to be kicking off the show asking everybody at home, who is the most important sports figure in Vegas history? We asked all the good people at home. We got a lot of different results, James, and you put together a beautiful graphic for us. But before we get into that, let's just right off the bat, let's hear what one person at home has to say.
Hey, Mike, huge fan of the show, brother. Just wanted to say, hands down, the best figure for Vegas sports of all time, Jerry Tarkanian. Can't beat Tark the Shark. What he did for the city, his legacy. He put UNLV basketball on the map. I mean, we were the premier school because of him. Nobody else can do it. Have a good one, brother. See you.
All right, thank you to that great caller right there for giving us Jerry Tarkanian as the answer. And yes, we asked everybody, who is the most important, most influential, who would be at the top of the mountain when it comes to the most important sports figure in Vegas history. Tarkanian seems like the guy. Of course, coached the Runnin' Rebels to 4 Final Fours, 1 national championship, a true legend. We also got to say R.I.P., rest in peace, to Lois, Dr. Lois Tarkanian. So we wish her and her family all the best, and you're in our thoughts and prayers. But James, as we heard from that first caller, the Tarkanian, Tark the Shark sentiment, that's definitely where people's minds are at when we pose this question. Break down this chart for us.
So yeah, we asked everybody who's the most important Vegas sports figure of all time, and as you can see, it is overwhelmingly Jerry Tarkanian. 64% of our respondents said Jerry Tarkanian. And, I think that's, if you're putting together a list, a Mount Rushmore, as we did, of most influential, most important, impactful Vegas sports figures, if Jerry Tarkanian isn't at the top of that list, throw the whole list away. That's how I feel about it. Dana White, I like that at 15%. Andre Agassi, Vegas native, 9%. Marc-Andre Fleury, I'm shocked he wasn't a higher percentage here at 4%. Asia Wilson, 4%. Bill Foley, owner of the Golden Knights, at 2%.
Yeah, it's all interesting. It's an interesting breakdown there, but Tarkanian really deserves the top spot.
Any list like this, when you're talking Vegas sports figures, it's got to be Tarkanian.
Yeah,
number one.
He put Vegas sports on the map. He was the first really to bring a franchise, a sports team, to prominence here.
Yeah.
The continual, a domination to a degree. So he has to really be that guy. But let's hear another voice from home and see what other people are saying.
I'm originally from South Central LA. I moved here in 2010. Jerry Tarkanian put Vegas on the map for sports, period.
Yeah, so I think that's where people's thought really is, and that's why it's 64%, because he put Vegas on the map when it comes to sport.
He's the godfather of sports in Las Vegas. It started with him. He, long before Dana White, in the UFC, long before the Golden Knights, long before the Aces and the Raiders, UNLV was the only show in town. And you ask any local here in Las Vegas, and they'll give you the breakdown on it. And I think anybody who's from here probably feels the same way. They'll give you the full discourse on what Jerry Tarkanian meant to the university, but also the city as well.
Yeah, I mean, the phrase "Runnin' Rebels," that came from that time period, and his, pressured defense, the that kind of led to the high-powered offense running and gunning.
I'm trying to think here, and correct me if I'm wrong. There's not a statue of any other sports figure in Vegas. They have one outside the Thomas and Mack.
Exactly.
Golden Knights don't have a statue of anybody. The Raiders, obviously Al Davis, but he wasn't around for the move. Not that there's a statue, but there's a, that's what the torch is for. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I mean, this really, I think it's an obvious answer. So once you think past him, if we're thinking in terms of, sports figures, athletes, executives, coaches, all those types of people, if you're constructing a Mount Rushmore for Vegas sports figures, Tark is front and center. But then after that, who do you give the 3 other spots to? So where are you at on that?
We're talking Mount Rushmore. I have Tark, and then my next one is Bill Foley.
Yeah.
You're talking about a guy who was the first to trust Las Vegas as a home for a professional sports franchise. A guy who took a shot on something that was kind of unknown. And you look at what the Golden Knights are today to this city and how they got started, everything that happened surrounding 1 October. How that tragedy happened just days before their inaugural game. And that season, year 1, they go on to make a run at the Stanley Cup in year 1 of a franchise. It's
unheard of.
You could write a movie script about it and they would throw it out because that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he said, Cup in 6, you got it done. I think you have to put a Bill Foley on a Mount Rushmore of Vegas sports figures.
And I agree with you there. If we're
going back and forth,
if we're going back and forth, we both have Tark, we both have Foley. To me, the only thing to add on the Foley train is the fact that, yes, all that stuff you mentioned, 100%. The only other part of this is that he paved the way for other franchises to come to Vegas. I don't think we have the Raiders without a Bill Foley. We don't have the future of, the Oakland A's now becoming the Vegas Athletics going to be coming here, the NBA potentially down the road. So Bill Foley was the guy who really, as a major top Big 4 sports league situation, brought a franchise here, born and raised, that is going to now set the course for all these other franchises that have come here, from the Raiders and all that kind of stuff. So he's the guy who put, the mark in the sand and said, we can do this, we can make this happen, this city's ready for it, and he proved it.
And I think you just look at the Golden Knights, and we talk about this a lot, but just what they mean to the city. They're Vegas born. Everybody here is a massive Golden Knights fan. And from the outside, maybe somebody who is not familiar with Las Vegas totally is thinking, the Raiders are probably the number 1 show in town. No, Vegas is a hockey town, bar none, and I don't think it's close.
100%. From all the young kids. I mean, the kids are at the ice rinks. They're trying to play. I mean, it really has become the identity of this city. And the fascinating thing is a lot of people who are, Vegas is a transient city, and a lot of people move here from other places. The fascinating thing is, let's just say somebody moves here from Colorado, or they move here from Michigan or something. You see a lot of those people keep their fandom of, for instance, the Detroit Lions, but they almost swap it out and say, I'm not going to be a Red Wings fan anymore. I'm going to be a Golden Knights fan now that I live here. Or they share both, whereas you haven't seen that with so much the Raiders, whereas I moved here, now I'm a Raiders fan. No, but a lot of people who have moved here now also root for
They adopt the Golden Knights.
Yeah, so it's a fascinating thing. All right, so we're 2 for 2 there. Who's next up? Who's number 3 on your Mount Rushmore?
So then I go to Dana White, another guy who calls Vegas home with UFC. The UFC has turned into the premier combat sports league. Nobody watches boxing anymore. Everybody watches the UFC. And when you think about the UFC, they've been headquartered here since 2001.
Right.
That's before the Golden Knights. That's before the Raiders. That's before the Aces. Another guy who took a stab at Vegas. And granted, fighting that's been synonymous with Las Vegas for a long time. But I think what Dana White did to really adopt Vegas and make this his own. The UFC, Dana White, and Vegas, those 3 things are synonymous with one another. And so I think you got to put Dana White on a Mount Rushmore of Vegas sports figures.
Okay, yeah, I like that a lot. I think that's a great way to go. Me, I'm gonna put in Mark Davis for right now.
Okay.
With me in my third spot. I think, you know, Mark Davis bringing the NFL, which is, I mean, the powerhouse of sports in this country, bringing a franchise here from Oakland to Vegas is a major deal. And we've already seen how much that has shifted the way that major sports leagues interact and the relationship they have with Vegas. Years ago, David Stern with the NBA, he had an all-star game here, never wanted anything further to do with that, right? The NFL was always scared of gambling and that being front and center even on a broadcast, and having those types of partnerships, it was unheard of. So the fact that we now have a team here, and then that propelled us to then have a Super Bowl, and now we have the Pro Bowl here. It's a given, you know. Right. We have all these events, you know, and now the NBA with the NBA Cup and all these, you know, the Summer League kind of influence. I think, you know, before we were like only Vegas was going to have the Summer League and we got to be happy with that. Right. Now it's like the NBA could be here on the horizon fairly soon. So I do think,
how many years?
You know, Foley setting the pathway up for success and then Mark Davis jumping on that path is a big deal. And that's going to set course a lot of things in the future. Plus, he also owns the Aces, you know, which have set really a new standard in the WNBA, winning back-to-back championships. We've seen how crazy women's basketball has skyrocketed over the past few years. So I think Mark Davis, if we're talking, you know, Mount Rushmore right now in today's age, we got to think more executives. After Tark, it's more about the people who are bringing sports here. I mean, the Goodmans could have technically gotten some answers.
We had some Oscar Goodmans on these responses,
because they really did play a major role in changing the thought of what sports can be here in our city. So
I think because sports are so fresh, professional sports are still so new here. You got to stick with some executives.
It's not like for you being from Pittsburgh, it's pretty obvious. You
like
got
Joe
Terry
Green.
Yeah, Terry Bradshaw's got to be on it.
I don't know if Terry Bradshaw's on a Mount Rushmore.
Really?
Pittsburgh sports for me, but yeah.
For four Super Bowls?
You got to think about the other iconic sports figures that are from that city. You know, we're talking Mario Lemieux. We're talking about Sidney Crosby. We're talking about Mean Joe Green.
Yeah, but the steel, I mean,
Dan Rooney. You know, we have so many, and like Willie Stargell, Roberto Clemente, Ben Roethlisberger. You have icons.
There's a lot of guys,
but those have been happening since the 30s and beyond.
But I think, you know, the Rooney family wouldn't really. You put players ahead of the Rooney family in a lot of ways because
I think the Rooneys are different.
Right.
Yeah, where you put the Rooneys ahead of those guys.
You do?
Yes.
Think?
Absolutely.
So it's fascinating. But here we're definitely seeing, you know, especially on Sin City Beat, we kind of posed this question to our panel. We saw a lot of the executive answers. So, all right, last spot for you.
Okay, we got my last one finally is a player. I'm going with Asia Wilson. Like it or not, she is the most decorated athlete to play professionally or collegiately here in Vegas. She is the best athlete to play here. And when you're talking about a Vegas Mount Rushmore, she's got to be on there. Look at her statistics. She's a 3-time MVP, 2-time WNBA champ, Finals MVP of that, Rookie of the Year, 6-time All-Star, 5-time All-WNBA, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, and she's just entering her prime. She is by far the best athlete to lace them up here in Vegas, and she's already like top 5 to ever play in the WNBA. I think you have to put Asia Wilson on a Mount Rushmore.
On Sin City Beat, I had Asia on there along with Mark Davis, Foley, and Tarkanian. I do think you've kind of made me think a little bit more about the Dana White stuff, and I think he probably would have to be on it. But in terms of athletes,
it's hard. Those last 2-3 spots are tough.
And even Agassi. I mean, Agassi got 9% after Dana White. I think Dana White's got to be on there. So I want to make sure Dana White's in my 4. I was going to go Andre Agassi, but the truth is, you know, Andre being born and raised here, Mike Agassi, raised the family here. That's where, Andre as a young boy really became a stud. But a lot of his wins, it's not happening in Vegas. He's
Right.
traveling the world, going to Wimbledon. He's going to French Open. He's going to the U.S. Open. He's all over the globe, Australian Open. So it's a little different. He represents Vegas, but I don't know if it's the same as an Asia Wilson. Even, that's why I put Andre and Bryce Harper kind of more in the same kind of camp, because they they put a spotlight on Vegas. They grew up here and,
I think it's maybe it's two different questions.
Right. They perfected their craft here, but Asia Wilson won here. It's a different thing. So I think Asia, if we're talking an athlete, she has to be the go-to person. She's already brought 2 titles here. She's going to be a top 3 potential. I mean, she's already for certain a top 5.
Yeah,
WNBA
Hall of Famer
player
already
all the time.
tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if she brings a couple more titles here, it's going to be hard to argue with her even not being, considered the best WNBA player of all time.
Correct. Yeah.
So I think you got to really think Asia for winning here, bringing those parades here. She's got to be up there. So I still think Dana White deserves to be in that 4 as well as Mark Davis. But if I had to go athlete, Asia would be my first choice.
Yeah, and like Andre Agassi was, 9% of our respondents had him as the most important Vegas sports figure of all time. And then you talk about a Bryce Harper, you talk about some of these other athletes that come here. I think it's 2 different questions we're asking. Are we asking who are the greatest athletes that are, Vegas born and raised?
Yeah.
Or are we asking the most important Vegas sports figures of all time? And if you're separating those, I don't think you can talk Andre Agassi or Bryce Harper.
Yeah, it's just a different type of question, but it's interesting. We got a lot of great responses from this. Let's hear another response we got, because I know we got a couple more to get to.
Yep.
Asia Wilson is the best representative for the best athlete to represent Las Vegas due to her demeanor, her consistency, and her professionalism.
Yeah, so you see there a caller saying Asia Wilson. I mean, listen, it's a shame that we even, dropped that to the Liberty this year, but they're going to be in the running for the next few years.
For as long as Asia Wilson's around, and I mean, for as long as they have that core around of Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young, Kelsey Plum, if they can keep that big 4, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with until those girls are old.
And when you really think about what she's done, not only just collectively, with the team bringing 2 titles here and how great they are, but as a singular basketball player, to win a title in college,
right?
To win, top player in college, to come to the WNBA and win how many MVPs she has now? 3?
She is a 3-time MVP.
3-time MVP. Mm-hmm. She has Defensive Player of the Year.
Twice Defensive Player of the Year.
She holds the multiple WNBA records for scoring,
mm-hmm.
right? I mean, it's starting to get a little crazy.
For somebody who is still playing, for somebody who is just entering their prime,
right, to
have all these kind of accolades is bananas. And if she played in a more prominent league that wasn't the WNBA, I think she would be getting quite a bit more recognition nationally. But I think something else that is so interesting about Asia Wilson is she has a statue outside of South Carolina's basketball stadium. Already. Yeah. Yeah, like you usually build statues for people long after they're retired or after they've passed. She got one when she was fresh out of college.
Yeah, I mean, that's how big of a fixture she really is in women's basketball. So it's fascinating stuff. But I think the great thing here is that this is a burgeoning sports city, Vegas, but it's still young. We're still in our infant baby stage.
And that's what's so cool about being here.
Right. It's not like Pittsburgh where, this debate could go on forever and there's so many figures to consider. Here, the sample size is fairly small. So it's exciting stuff, and it's going to be one of these conversations that is discussed for years to come. James, real quickly, as we had the break, let's get our last response from the good people at home.
The greatest sports person ever in Las Vegas is undoubtedly Jerry Tarkanian. Everybody else is not even in the same picture. He was the greatest. He brought us national championships, and it was horrible what UNLV did to him.
All right, welcome back to SOS. So I had the privilege to talk to actor, entrepreneur, and Las Vegas local Mark Wahlberg. Let's take a listen to my conversation with him. We're at Flecha at Town Square with the great Mark Wahlberg. Mark continues to make his mark here in Las Vegas. He wants to bring the silver screen to the silver state. We love the family plan. We love the union. He's got a new great movie coming out soon, directed by Mel Gibson. We got a lot to talk about, but we're here at Flecha right now. This is Mexican redefined. It's got a lot of the flavors, the traditional Mexican flavors that we love, but it's infused with some fusion, some good kind of stuff. Tell us why this place is going to make a big impact here in Las Vegas and why people are going to love it.
Well, first of all, we wanted to build something that was really catering to the community and not necessarily the strip. So like 80% of our customers are locals.
Yeah.
This is a chef-driven concept. And I've been in the restaurant business now for 14 years with my brothers and my family. And so it's all about having the right people. So finding the right chefs, the right operators, and creating something that's really special. It really is about Christian and Randy and what we've created together. And so making sure that I have the right people in the right positions to create the best experience, whether it's, the little touches like the welcome marg when you come in, or the best ceviche you've ever tasted, the best street tacos you've ever tasted, the best lobster enchiladas. I mean, the food is amazing, and of course the entire customer experience, the service, everything.
And listen, we spoke at another place on the border a few years ago. You were talking about Flecha Azul and all that great stuff. Let's continue talking about some other stuff, because here's what I think so interesting about you. You were just talking with the Nevada Independent. You're a local here. You moved here in 2022. Let's be real, you were saying some really great stuff. You've spoken to Governor Joe Lombardo. You really think it's not a matter of when, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when the silver screen comes to Vegas. Tell us a little bit about why it's such a no-brainer and the cohesion behind Hollywood and how that's kind of dying and how this would be a great new place for Hollywood 2.0.
Look, first of all, there's so many talented people here, both in front of and behind the camera. I made 2 movies already here. But with both of those movies, all that money went back into the community. What I'm trying to do is encourage people like myself, if they're trying to pursue a better way of life, to move to Nevada, because that is my life and all the people that have come with me, life and lifestyle has vastly improved.
Right.
Since we've made that move. And so in order to do that, to get the people to come, the other talent outside of that, and people who are making the movies, writers, directors, actors, you need to have some sort of incentive here as far as a tax credit. And look, with the amount of jobs that we'll create, the amount of excitement that we'll create, as you know, we've got sports here now. Vegas is the place to be. And so we want to make sure that all that money is going back into the community. So for me, it's not about Disney getting a discount. It's about people coming here. It improves the housing market, improves everything. So.
And I think, you're a guy who demonstrates such you work with people so well. A lot of celebrities don't display that. They don't demonstrate working with people well. You work with everybody, and it's a great thing.
Well, I'm trying to connect with people. COVID really gave a lot of people an excuse to distance themselves from people. I am trying to connect with people, and more importantly, I'm trying to bring people together to connect.
And you're here in the community. People see you all the time. Now, you got a new thing. Let's check the municipal thing. You got a new gym concept. It's all about recovery, fitness. You're about fitness and faith. We know everything you do with Halo, but now EOS is partnering with Municipal to start this new gym in downtown Summerlin. Tell us about that.
So great operators. I wanted to create something that was super luxury, super high end, that really has all the bells and whistles, but also has the best and most serious training.
Yeah.
So with the recovery center, rejuvenation therapies, cafes, cold plunges, everything you can imagine, and a retail store inside, but the best equipment, state-of-the-art everything, and a place where you've got the best personal trainers, and you could come, and you're going to also be embraced in a way, and we're going to create a community like the 4 a.m. Club, where we are going to create, there's a content element, there's lots of things happening that I think is going to change the face of fitness.
If we can be 1% as as much as you are with your fitness regimen, that would be a good thing. So getting
just
that.
Trying to encourage people. It's so much easier to stay in shape than it is to get in shape.
Yes.
And you want to be around. You want to be able to move.
Consistency.
And yes, for longevity, consistency, and just a healthy lifestyle. Finding that balance of eating right, exercising, having your cheat meal, kind of going and celebrating your victories, right, and then
you
getting
post
back
that
after
on social. We see that all the time.
I want to make sure, and I'm trying to share, all the things that I've learned along the way, and try to help people avoid the mistakes that I've made in the past with fitness and training the wrong way, bad diet, things of that, and creating bad habits. I'm trying to just share with people my journey and my experience in real time.
It's a great thing. Let's talk a little sports for a second, because what I love about you and your career, you're constantly evolving and improving upon things. From just a movie standpoint, we remember The Departed to Boogie Nights to, The Fighter and the way that you attack those roles. But then we also love The Union and The Family Plan and all that kind of stuff, all the movies with Will Ferrell. So let's talk about how Tom Brady, the GOAT. I'm curious about this as a native Boston guy. That guy is the best quarterback of all time, correct?
I think he'd still go out there today and play, for sure.
Okay, so he's the best quarterback of all time, but me thinking, I work with Fox, he heads to the booth. There's going to be a learning curve, but we're all anticipating if he's the GOAT in one area, how can he maybe not be the GOAT in another area? And the way that he's developing in the booth. Tell us a little bit about that, because you've had to grow from Marky Mark to acting to business to all those things. So what's the advice you would give to him?
Well, no, look, you've just got to do it. You've got to be out there. You got to kind of figure out, because obviously he's got one of the great football minds of all time, but how you're articulating that in layman's terms for people at home so they can understand what's going on, and just being yourself. He's got a great personality. He's very funny. It's not, I wouldn't worry about being sarcastic. I think he's doing great. He'll be fine. What I do want him to do, bring Belichick here, lace him up one more time, Tommy, throw the helmet on, and let's bring a Super Bowl to Nevada. Come on.
What do you think about Drake Maye? He had a great touchdown, the Hail Mary throw from the 7 to get them in the overtime. What do you think as a rookie? What have you seen from him? What do you like? What do you don't like?
I'm just worried that, it's great to see that we have a mobile quarterback, but I'm also worried because that's really putting him in a risky, dangerous situation. I don't want to see him getting hurt. And, it's tough because I still root for the Patriots. I still think they're going to win every game that they play.
Yeah.
And, and I'm also comfortable that, it's now rebuilding and they've got to take some time, and we had a great run. But, I'm just hoping that he doesn't get hurt and that he has the time to really grow and develop.
We got the Boston energy here. Brady, of course, now a new part owner in the Raiders, and we got a guy here from Dorchester. A Boston guy right here, Mark Wahlberg. He's really making that mark, that imprint here in our community. Mark Wahlberg, thank you so much. Welcome back to SOS, everybody. Mike Davis here with James Edward Barrickman IV. So now our next question we pose to everybody at home. What was the best sports moment of 2024? James, a lot of things to think about here.
There were quite a bit.
You did a lot of research. I'm curious what you think, because I think if we had to think about maybe not the moment, but the story of 2024 might be Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, 100%. I think she was the best story. Now, if we're asking what was the best sports moment,
yes,
I think there's something else that surpasses her. And to me, I think that was LeBron, Steph, KD, Team USA coming from behind a 17-point deficit to beat a Jokic-led Serbia team in the semifinals of the Olympics.
Yeah.
You think about that game and really that team. This was the first time and probably the last time that we're going to see LeBron, KD, Steph, 3 true icons of the game and icons for a generation of sports fans to lace them up for Team USA all at once. You think about that game itself, because obviously the other games, the France game and the gold medal game, those are great in their own right, but the moments from that Serbia semifinal game are things we'll never forget. Trailing like by 15 or 17 at one point in the second half. We are looking at KD 3 balls and elbow jumpers. Steph's hitting threes to, for the go-ahead lead around the 4-minute mark. LeBron is being LeBron, driving through. Embiid was a huge part of it. It was for a team that was, obviously the favorite. The U.S. is always going to be the favorite to win in basketball in the Olympics. Those moments, I think, from LeBron, from Steph, from KD, Embiid, those goats of our game, to put on the cape for Team USA all together for the first time and probably for the last time, to overcome what seemed insurmountable in the moment against the best player in the world in Embiid.
Yeah.
For them to be able to right the ship and come back and claw back to get the W was iconic to me. Something I think we're going to be talking about 20, 30 years down the line. Things like the Redeem Team and the Dream Team. I think we're going to be talking about this team right up there with them. And I think that's something that, was just awesome to see in my top moment.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think when you think moments, it's almost like snapshots, pictures in your mind. It's kind of like in the old days, what would be the cover of a Sports Illustrated? And that image of Steph Curry that is now that famous picture in history from, going to sleep after,
right.
Hitting all those threes. Because he was
he was
up.
Lighting it up.
He was lighting it up in that game. But prior to that, he didn't have the best Olympics,
No.
and this was his kind of first crack at it.
He got hot down the stretch. And just speaking of moments that are captured in time,
yeah,
that photo of Steph and LeBron face to face, forehead to forehead, screaming at each other, because they're so fired up that they were able to complete that comeback against a really good Serbian team.
Yeah.
It's stuff of legend, iconic stuff that will stand the test of time. And you just think about who LeBron James is, who Steph Curry is, who Kevin Durant is.
Yeah, Embiid. I mean, these are all fixtures that
fixtures of the game.
Yeah,
for them to suit it up all together for the first time, it was amazing to see that magic all at once in real time, with something of such consequence on the line.
And Curry we hadn't seen in the Olympics.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, which is crazy. So it's a special moment. I think anytime there's a Summer Olympics, it's usually your moments are going to kind of probably come from that if you're reflecting on the year. I think beyond that, some of the other moments to consider, honestly, the whole Taylor Swift Kelsey Chiefs kind of situation.
You would put that up there?
Winning the Super Bowl, I mean, it was a big story of 2024, and kind of how.
So are we talking top story, or are we talking top moment?
To me, they're one and the same in some ways, but then there's also nuance. That's why I agree with you on the moment. I think, as I was just reflecting on the year, I think the Taylor Swift Kelsey thing is a major part of this. I think the Caitlin Clark moments and stories is a big part of this as well. But I think you got to go with Steph Curry, Team USA, and winning that gold. And, it's in a lot of ways, the semifinal was the gold medal game for them, because that's really what we're going to remember. But, I think that's where I'm at.
They were hitting some massive shots down the stretch, and those images of how fired up Jokic was.
Yeah.
When his boys were hitting some big threes to extend the lead, to try and hold off Team USA. Just the passion from both sides.
Yeah.
And the icons that participated in that game. Because Jokic, best player in the world. And he was, what was in the face of, the three horses of the USA team, and for them to be able to come back and win in front of everybody on the world stage with a gold medal, match on the line. I think you got to put that number one. I'm with you on Caitlin Clark, by the way. I think she didn't exactly have a moment, but you think about
the whole year was a moment.
That whole year was a moment from the late in the year, those battles with Angel Reese and LSU. That I think this past year's women's NCAA tournament could be a moment in and of its own, because you think about what that did for the women's game as far as ratings and eyeballs and attention. And then, they were getting better viewership than the NBA was.
Yeah.
In the NBA, yes, and the men as well.
So it's crazy. And then parlaying that into the WNBA and all the records they beat this year for attendance and for ratings. And so I think it's a major storyline of the year as well.
If we're talking stories, I think Caitlin Clark's right
so,
there.
but I definitely agree with you on that. James, as we head to break, we're going to tell everybody at home that coming up next, we got a great conversation for Sink or Swim regarding the Heisman, one of the most prestigious awards you can get in the world of sports. We're going to be talking about that next after these words. All right, it's Sink or Swim time right now on SOS. James, the Heisman Trophy favorites right now. There's a few guys really at the top of the list. For me, it's really a three-person race right now. It's Travis Hunter, it's Ashton Genty, and it's Cam Ward. I think those are the three guys that have to be in the conversation. Maybe Dylan Gabriel can sneak in there, but I think those are really the three guys. To me, I think what Travis Hunter's doing as a two-way player, in the same given game, this dude is, playing corner, grabbing interceptions, and then he's also a monster as a wide receiver, getting touchdowns, great amount. I mean, he's a tremendous player. But Ashton Genty as well, this is a guy who leads college football in rushing touchdowns and rushing yards, and actually has an opportunity to capture Barry Sanders and his single-season rushing record and his single-season rushing touchdown record. So to me, those are my two guys. Cam Ward, I think he lost a lot of faith, James, after that Georgia Tech loss. But this is a guy who really, I went to University of Miami. What he has done to reinvigorate the program, turn it around as a transfer portal guy.
They're going to be a fun watch, hopefully, if they make the college.
And so it's a shame they lost that game, but he's going to go down in history just for Hurricane history, because he's going to beat easily Bernie Kosar's completion record, and I believe his yards and his completion record from 1984. So the quarterback situation for Miami with Cam Ward, he's already done tremendous things there. I just don't know if, with that loss to Georgia Tech and where they're standing, I think Miami was going to have to go undefeated for that to happen for him with the Heisman.
I think in a normal year, Cam Ward is probably still running away. Not necessarily running away, but right now he would be the favorite in a normal year. This is not a normal year, because in a normal year, if Travis Hunter didn't exist, or if Ashton Genty didn't exist, Travis Hunter would be running away with it, and vice versa. Ashton Genty would be running away with it. What both of these two guys are doing is unheard of. Travis Hunter doesn't, and here are the arguments really that I keep hearing, because I agree with you. If it were up to me and I was voting right now today, I would pick Travis Hunter. I just think that when you are a top flight corner, the best player on the field at all times, whether or not you're on offense or on defense, that's something that nobody else can say in the history of the game, really. And, there have been other guys that have played both ways. I understand that. But I think to be doing what Travis Hunter is doing, he's top 10 in interceptions. Yeah. He's top 10 in receiving touchdowns. He's up there in receiving yards too.
And he's not a full-time receiver.
Right, and he's going to be a first-round draft pick at whatever position he chooses to play. So I think when you're a player at the college level and you're the best player on the field, whether or not you're playing offense or defense, you're getting my Heisman vote. And it'd be different if Colorado was 5-4.
Right.
They're not.
100%.
They're ranked in the top 20. They're going to be in the top 15 here in a minute. I would go with Travis Hunter now. With that all being said, I don't want to take anything away from what Ashton Genty's doing, because that is, his stats are bananas.
Ridiculous.
Incredible numbers. Things we'll never see.
Right. I mean, running backs who have, first of all, the Travis Hunter stuff, it's like, the best way to put it,
it sucks that we can't hand both of them the Heisman.
But it's almost like Jim Thorpe level stuff.
Right.
Back when football was just kind of kicking off and everybody had to play.
Well, that's
everything.
The way Boise State plays. But it's like they don't know what the forward pass is.
But I'm saying Jim Thorpe was like an offense-defense guy.
Right.
So it's like Travis Hunter. So it's like crazy that that's even going on in today's age. It's a little bit of the Shohei kind of stuff, which
Right.
is super cool.
Yeah, he's the Shohei Ohtani of college football.
But like you said, Ashton Genty, his stats, I mean, running backs have won the Heisman doing a lot less than what
Of course.
Ashton Genty.
And that's
like
why I'm
Mark
saying-
Ingram did not have the stats that Ashton Genty has.
He didn't even have close to the
Right.
numbers that Ashton
But he
Genty
won a
has.
Heisman.
And he won a Heisman. And that's why I'm saying this is such an interesting Heisman race. Because we've never, it's so rare that we see such great candidates at once, two of them, because like if Travis Hunter wasn't around, Ashton Genty'd be running away with it. And if Ashton Genty wasn't around, Travis Hunter'd be running away with it.
If Ashton Genty beats Barry Sanders' single-season record of 2,628 yards and 37 touchdowns, do you almost have to give it to him over? Like, if that happens, then maybe he has to get it over Travis Hunter, just from a statistical standpoint.
Potentially. I think at this point it's going to be who gets into the playoff. Because right now Boise State has an inside track if they can go on to win the Mountain West Championship. And I think if you're Ashton Genty and you beat Barry Sanders' record and you get Boise State into the first 12-team college football playoff, sure. But with that being said, when you look at Colorado, they're a 2-loss team right now. Assuming they go on to win the Big 12 and also sneak into the college football playoff, how do you say no to Travis Hunter if his stats hold up as well?
And that's why the Cam Ward thing is even a good, because without Cam Ward, Miami's nowhere close to this. So it's like
Correct.
Each of these guys from a most valuable player standpoint.
I know that you want to put your guy Cam Ward. Maybe
he's a tier down.
He's a tier below these two. I think it's a 2-horse race really, between Genty and Hunter.
So you would give your vote if you had the vote today. It would be Travis Hunter.
The Travis Hunter, but again, Ashton Genty's numbers are things we've never seen before, and he's averaging 7 yards a carry against 8-man fronts, and I'm not taking any. And that's why when people try to argue with me, what are Travis Hunter's numbers? Yeah, he doesn't have the crazy, insane, out of this world numbers that Ashton Genty has,
Right.
but he's playing both ways and impacting the game on both sides of the field, unlike Ashton Genty is. With that being said, I can't give you stats from Travis Hunter that I'm giving for Ashton Genty. When teams go up against Boise State, they know that Ashton Genty is going to get the football 35 plus times a game.
You saw him in
I got
person.
to watch him in person, and UNLV did better than number 1 Oregon did at containing him. He averaged 7-8 yards a carry against the number 1 team in the nation.
A few weeks ago, he was averaging 9.9 yards per carry. That's like a first down.
It's incredible, and that's why it's so hard to even when people are trying to ask me for numbers on why I think it should be Travis Hunter.
I know this is not the question, but if you were a team, if you had the first pick of the draft, let's just say you didn't need a quarterback.
Okay.
Maybe even you do need a quarterback. Does Travis Hunter deserve to be the number 1 pick, and where should Genty be as well? Because I mean, if we're talking about the production that they have, I mean, these guys could be monsters in the NFL. It's pretty crazy. I mean, if Travis Hunter plays both sides of the ball in the NFL,
right,
that's going to be ridiculous in itself.
I think that's going to be such an interesting thing when draft time does roll around. Is Travis Hunter going to try to play both sides of the ball at the NFL level? Because if so,
because we've seen certain guys, right, kind of do that, like a Charles Woodson or a Desmond Howard. Like, I'm sure they did little packages where they did both.
Right.
For him to be as elite he is at both, I just am curious if he's going to be that elite and it can be warranted at the NFL level. Like, is he the wide receiver 1 if he wasn't a corner as well?
It's going to be interesting. I think NFL teams value Travis Hunter more as a corner than they do a wide receiver. But, I mean, if he is willing and able to play both ways at the NFL level and everything he's doing at the college level tells you he can, then he is a unicorn in this year's draft. And, if you're not one of these teams that absolutely has to have a quarterback, Travis Hunter's got to be the first guy off the board.
And Genty, where should he go? I mean, we're seeing a lot of mocks with the Cowboys taking him.
Travis Hunter not Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty watching him in person against UNLV. I got a chance to do that when him and Boise State came to Vegas. The contact balance is incredible. He obviously has been, one of the best players in college football, top 2. I think he's going to be a first-round pick. I don't know if he's going to go.
Oh, he's definitely in the first round pick.
In the top 20 or top 15, but I think he's definitely a first-round pick. The contact balance is incredible. The durability to withstand 35-plus touches a game at the Division I level is incredible. I've seen a lot of comps comparing him to Alvin Kamara, and there's that famous clip of Alvin Kamara. I forget exactly the team he was playing, where he catches a screen and he runs up the sidelines, and it just looks absolutely effortless as there are giant defenders bouncing off of him, and he's breaking tackles, and that's kind of what you see in Genty a little bit when you watch him run at Boise State.
Chuck the Wagon Williams, when he was here, he kind of told me he kind of thought he was a mixture of like Maurice Jones-Drew and Adrian Peterson, which is fascinating because he's a lot smaller than you think.
Yeah, he's only
Genty.
about 5'9". And
So,
standing on the field not far from him,
right?
He's about as tall as me, and I'm like 5'7" on my best.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be. Listen, college football. It's definitely an exciting season with so many storylines, so much happening there. James, any last thoughts you want to say regarding Heisman talk before we say goodbye?
I wish I could give the Heisman to both Travis Hunter and Ashton Genty, because in a normal year, if they weren't both going head-to-head against each other, they'd be both running away with it. So, it's great for us as consumers to get to take in such a what I think is going to be an iconic Heisman race one day. But it sucks for those two because they are both so deserving of it.
Yeah, it's an exciting year for college football, exciting year for sports in general as we reflected on the top sports moment, the biggest storylines, as well as Vegas sports figures. And who knows, maybe one day in the future, top Vegas sports figure could be like a Cam Ward. We don't know. Could be.
Shedeur Sanders, maybe?
You want Shedeur. You're big on Shedeur.
I've been talking about Shedeur on this show for how many weeks now?
If Shedeur is the pick to the Raiders, that's why
have you seen this? Sorry to interrupt you, but have you seen that after every Raiders loss?
Yeah.
Shedeur Sanders has been tweeting, "Thank you, God."
You told me that. I didn't see that.
It's
I think he wants to come here. I think he's got prime time in his DNA, in his blood. So he's
a flashy figure. He's like his dad.
He's built like his dad. For the Vegas lights.
Yeah.
The question becomes, because that's the next part of the equation. If Shedeur comes to the Raiders, does Deion become the head coach of the Raiders?
Now you're getting into a crazy
because
scenario.
that's a big rumor.
That is a big rumor that Deion's going to leave for the NFL or a bigger college job once his boys leave Colorado. My heart wants Coach Prime to stay at Colorado and keep building what he has started there. Now, is that a realistic expectation? No. I don't think so, but that's what my heart wants. And I think
he's going to try to go.
I think whatever NFL team gets Shedeur, assuming they're picking in the top 3 to 5, and they have an opening at head coach, they're probably going to throw a blank check at Coach Prime.
And it's just a very Vegas thing. Listen, I think it's different if you're the Giants. I don't know if the Giants would do it. Vegas would do it.
Right. I think that would be a dream for a guy like Mark Davis. I think he can see the grain and the money signs in his eyes if Shedeur falls to the Raiders.
It would be a whole new era of coolness and swag for the Raiders.
Yeah, you talk about swag being brought to an organization.
But he's proven it. It's a little different than Pierce. He's done a lot with that Boulder team.
Well, Coach Prime has succeeded everywhere he's went at Jackson State, and I was one of the people that was really. I didn't think Colorado was going to win more than 4 games this season, and here they are making everybody eat their words, ranked in the top 20 with kind of an inside track at the college football playoff. So assuming Colorado doesn't slip up the rest of the season and makes the college football playoff, yeah, maybe Coach Prime's on his way out.
Coach Prime may even be playing center field for the Vegas Athletics.
Yeah.
You don't know. Guys, thank you so much for joining us this week on Sound Off Sports. We hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you next time here in the Den at Fox 5 Studios for SOS.